Brain, listen to this if you're overthinking everything crescent moon. The voice is calm, deep, and slow, like someone finally speaking to the storm inside your mind. There's a moment, late at night, when silence stops being peaceful and starts becoming loud. When you lie in bed, your eyes open in the dark, and your thoughts begin to whisper. Then they begin to argue. Then they begin to scream. If you're listening to this right now, maybe you're tired, not the physical kind, but the kind that starts behind your eyes and lives in your thoughts. The exhaustion that comes from thinking too much about everything and everyone, from analyzing every word, every tone, every look, from replaying the past like a broken film reel that never ends. Walter Riso once said, asterisk, when your mind becomes your enemy, you must learn to manage your thoughts before they manage you. Asterisk. And maybe that's where you are now, trapped inside a mind that won't stop spinning, a mind that mistakes movement for progress and worry for control. You think and think and think because it makes you feel like you're doing something, because silence feels dangerous, because uncertainty feels unbearable, because your brain keeps whispering, if I can just understand it more, maybe I can prevent the pain. But here's the truth no one tells you. Overthinking doesn't prevent pain. It prolongs it. You're not solving anything. You're reliving everything. Every what if, every maybe, every should have, every why did I? And the cruel part is this. Your mind disguises a torture as safety. It says, I'm protecting you, but really it's imprisoning you. Because overthinking is not logic. It's fear in disguise. You replay conversations not because you care what was said, but because you're afraid of what you didn't say. You analyze people's actions not because you want to understand them, but because you fear they'll hurt you again. You question your decisions not because you made bad ones, but because you don't trust yourself anymore. That's what overthinking steals first. Trust, not just in others, but in yourself. You begin doubting your intuition. You second-guess your instincts. You stop believing in your own emotional intelligence. You become addicted to mental rehearsal, as if predicting every possible outcome could make you feel safe. But it never does, because the more you think, the less you live. You start existing only inside your head. Your mind becomes a maze with no exit. And the more you try to escape, the more lost you become. You scroll endlessly. You distract yourself. You plan. You replan. You rewrite. You reanalyze. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You search for closure from people who thrive on keeping you uncertain. And when the overthinking finally quiets down, you call it peace. But deep down, it's only exhaustion wearing a disguise. Because peace and numbness are not the same. Overthinking doesn't stop until you decide to stop feeding it. And that's the hard truth. You can't outthink anxiety. You can only out-accept it. And acceptance, real acceptance, feels terrifying at first. Because it means surrender. It means letting go of control. It means living with questions that may never have answers. It means trusting that not knowing can still be okay. Stay with me, because in part 2 we'll go deeper into the real psychology behind why you can't stop thinking, and the hidden fears your mind is trying to protect you from. The voice is deeper now, thoughtful, deliberate, and filled with quiet compassion. This is where understanding begins. Overthinking doesn't start in the mind. It starts in the heart. It begins the moment something hurts you, and you don't know how to process it. It begins when your emotions feel too big, and your brain steps in, saying, "Don't worry, I'll handle this." So your mind starts doing what it knows best. It analyzes, dissects, predicts, controls. It builds theories, explanations, and stories, not because it loves drama, but because it's terrified of pain. Walter Riso once wrote, asterisk, to think excessively is to fear excessively, asterisk, and that's what overthinking really is. Fear disguised as logic. You overthink because you were blindsided once, because someone betrayed you when you didn't see it coming, because something collapsed right when you thought it was safe, because you promised yourself, never again. Never again will I be unprepared. Never again will I be hurt without warning. Never again will I trust too fast, too deep, too much. So your brain becomes your guard dog, hypervigilant, alert, always watching, always questioning, always doubting. It believes that if it can predict every possible danger, you'll never be caught off guard again. But here's the twist. The mind that overprotects you slowly starts to destroy you, because while it's busy scanning for threats, it forgets to notice beauty. While it's preparing for loss, it forgets to experience love. While it's trying to prevent mistakes, it forgets how to live spontaneously. You become emotionally exhausted, not from life itself, but from your own thoughts about life. You can't enjoy moments because you're too busy interpreting them. You can't rest because you're afraid of missing something. You can't connect deeply because you're analyzing everything they say. You can't sleep because your brain won't stop replaying what could have been. And the cruelest part? Overthinking convinces you that peace is dangerous, that silence is suspicious, that calm means something must be wrong. You see, the overthinker's greatest fear isn't failure, it's uncertainty. You'd rather drown in analysis than float in the unknown, because the unknown doesn't offer control, and control feels like safety even when it's an illusion. But here's what your mind doesn't realize yet. Control and safety are not the same thing. Control is rigidity. Safety is trust. And trust requires surrender. Walter Riso teaches that the antidote to overthinking is emotional detachment, not from people, not from goals, but from the illusion of control. To let go means this. You no longer need to predict what will happen to feel at peace. You can live in the present without rewriting the past or fast-forwarding to the future. You can accept not knowing as part of life's rhythm. But let's be honest, letting go isn't instant. It's a process. It's learning to talk back to your thoughts. It's whispering, "I hear you," instead of letting them spiral you into panic. It's saying, "Not every thought deserves my attention." It's realizing that not all thinking is productive. Some of it is just noise. It's catching yourself mid-spiral and saying, "No, this is fear speaking, not truth." And maybe, just maybe, you're not broken for overthinking. You're just scared. Scared of being caught off guard. Scared of being hurt again. Scared of losing control. But you don't need control to be safe. You need self-trust. That's the truth most overthinkers miss. You keep trying to trust situations, trust people, trust outcomes. But the one person you stop trusting is yourself. You can't stop overthinking because you don't trust yourself to handle what comes next. So your brain tries to manage everything in advance. But you don't need to. You've survived everything you thought you couldn't. You've handled every moment you thought would destroy you. You've endured heartbreak, change, uncertainty, and you're still here. So what makes you think you won't survive the next unknown? Stay with me, because in part 3 we go deeper into how to break this pattern, not by fighting your thoughts, but by befriending them, and finally learning how to let your mind rest. The voice now feels calmer, confident, grounded. It speaks not to the panic, but to the part of you that is tired of fighting your own mind. You've been living inside your head for so long that silence now feels foreign. You think peace means everything is fine. But peace really means I'm no longer afraid of what might happen. And that's the shift we begin here. Because you can't stop overthinking by force. You can't silence your mind by fighting it. You can only calm it by understanding it. Walter Riso often says, asterisk, you must stop negotiating with your mind as if it were an enemy. The goal is not to win against it, but to educate it. Asterisk. And that is what you're going to do now. Educate your thoughts, gently but firmly, until they learn to stop holding you hostage. The first truth you need to understand is this. Your mind is not evil. It's protective. It's afraid. It's like a child that has seen too much and now tries to overcompensate. Every time you start spiraling into what if, every time your brain starts overanalyzing that message, that silence, that word, it's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to prepare you. But it's preparing you for battles that don't exist. You've trained your brain to react to imaginary danger as if it were real. That's why your chest tightens, even when nothing's wrong. That's why your heart races in calm situations. That's why your sleep is shallow, your shoulders tense, your breathing short, because your mind can't tell the difference between a thought and a threat. And here's where the healing begins. You start reminding your brain that not every thought is an emergency. Say it again, slowly. Not every thought is an emergency. Not every unanswered text means rejection. Not every silence means abandonment. Not every mistake means failure. Not every feeling means fact. Overthinking thrives in the space between emotion and logic, that gray zone where feelings disguise themselves as truth. So when you catch yourself spiraling, pause and ask, what is real right now? Not what could happen, not what might happen, not what your fear says will happen, but what is actually happening in this moment? This simple question is your first tool to reclaim peace, because overthinking pulls you into the past or future, never the present. You replay conversations that can't be changed. You imagine outcomes that don't exist. You interpret things that aren't even happening. And while your mind travels through time, your body remains here, tired, restless, waiting for peace to catch up. So you begin to practice presence. Not perfectly, not all at once, but gently. You start to ground yourself when thoughts spiral, by noticing your breath, by feeling your feet against the ground, by observing the rhythm of your heartbeat, by saying softly, I am safe right now. Because that's the only truth that overthinking forgets. You are safe in this moment. There's no tiger in the room, no danger in the silence, no disaster in the delay. Only your imagination projecting fear into the future. And when you learn to call your thoughts what they are, projections, not prophecies, you begin to separate your mind from your identity. You realize, I am not my thoughts. I am the awareness behind them. That single realization changes everything, because suddenly you stop identifying with every anxious story your mind creates. You stop reacting to every mental storm. You start observing instead of drowning. You become the calm in your own chaos. And that's when the healing begins to deepen, not because your thoughts stop, but because you stop believing all of them. You start listening differently. You hear your overthinking say, what if this goes wrong? And you respond, then I'll handle it. You hear, what if they leave? And you say, then I'll survive like I always have. You hear, what if I fail? And you whisper, then I'll learn and I'll rise. Because overthinking loses its power the moment you stop treating your thoughts as facts and start treating them as what they are, possibilities, not certainties. This is not control. This is mastery. And mastery begins when you realize that peace isn't found by stopping thoughts. It's found by not following every single one. Stay with me, because in part 4, we go even deeper into how to quiet your inner dialogue, how to create distance from your thoughts, and how to finally teach your mind that peace is safe. The voice has shifted again, soft but powerful. It's no longer speaking to your anxiety, but to the part of you that's ready to change. By now, you've begun to understand something profound. You cannot control your thoughts, but you can control the meaning you give them. And that difference changes everything. Because here's the truth. Your mind will always talk. It's what it does. It thinks, it predicts, it warns, it imagines endlessly. Trying to stop thinking is like trying to stop your heart from beating. You can't silence it completely, but you can teach it how to speak to you differently. Walter Riso writes, Asterisk, peace of mind is not achieved by silencing thought, but by learning to coexist with it without fear. Asterisk, that's the next step, coexistence. Not war, not repression. Coexistence. To coexist with your mind means you stop seeing every thought as a command and start seeing it as information. Some useful, some not. You start creating space between stimulus and response, between what your mind says and what you choose to believe. That space, that pause, is where your power lives. You stop reacting to every what if. You stop chasing every fear. You stop letting your mind dictate your emotions. Instead, you start watching. You observe your mind like a sky, full of clouds. Some dark, some bright, some fast, some still. You realize you are the sky, not the weather. And in that realization, a shift happens, because for the first time, you stop drowning in thought and start floating above it. That's what mindfulness really is. Not an escape from your mind, but a new relationship with it. You start noticing patterns. The same thought that reappears every night. The same worry that disguises itself in new forms. The same fear replaying in different words. You begin to see your mind for what it is: a storyteller, a dramatist, a relentless narrator who hates silence because silence makes it irrelevant. But here's the twist. Your mind doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs to be soothed. So you begin to talk to it differently. When it says, "What if this goes wrong?" you say, "Then we'll figure it out." When it says, "You can't handle this," you say, "I've handled worse." When it says, "You're not enough," you whisper, "Enough for who? I am already whole." You start speaking to your thoughts, like you would to a scared child, with compassion, not anger, with reassurance, not denial, with patience, not panic. And slowly, your nervous system begins to trust you again. The body relaxes, the breath deepens, the heart rate softens, and for the first time in a long time, you start to feel something unfamiliar yet sacred, peace without perfection. Because peace doesn't mean your mind is quiet. It means your mind is no longer louder than your truth. You stop needing answers to every question. You stop replaying the past trying to rewrite it. You stop imagining the future trying to control it. You stop fighting reality trying to perfect it. Instead, you begin to anchor yourself to the only place peace exists: the present, right here, right now, this breath, this moment, this awareness. Every time your mind tries to drag you into its spiral, you gently remind it, "I am not there. I am here." And here, in this moment, you are safe. You are alive. You are enough. You are free. But there's something else that needs to be said. Something deeper. Something most people never realize. Overthinking isn't just a mental habit. It's an emotional avoidance mechanism. It's how you distract yourself from feelings you haven't processed. Every thought is a substitute for an emotion you haven't allowed yourself to feel. The anxiety masks grief. The control masks fear. The obsession masks sadness. The logic masks heartbreak. You think you're overthinking problems, but really you're avoiding pain. And the only way out of overthinking is through the emotion you've been avoiding. That's the part we'll uncover next. In Part 5, we go beneath the surface, into the emotional roots of your overthinking, and how to finally heal the feeling that's been fueling the noise all along. The voice is lower now, deeper, more intimate. This is not the voice of analysis anymore. This is the voice of emotional truth, the part that whispers what logic tries to hide. You've been trying to think your way out of pain, but pain doesn't respond to logic. It responds to love. That's the hidden truth behind overthinking. It's not a thinking problem. It's a feeling problem. Your thoughts are loud because your emotions have been silenced for too long. Every time you said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. Every time you smiled to avoid worrying others. Every time you distracted yourself instead of breaking down. Every time you forgave too soon just to avoid confrontation. Every time you buried sadness under productivity. You told your heart, "Not now, not today. I can't afford to feel this." So your heart handed the pain to your brain and said, "You deal with it." And your mind, desperate to help, started overanalyzing, replaying, dissecting, trying to fix what could only be felt. That's why you can't stop thinking, because your heart still hasn't been heard. Walter Riso once wrote, "We cannot intellectualize emotional pain. We must humanize it." And that's the hardest part for an overthinker to learn. You can't outthink grief. You can't reason your way through sadness. You can't plan your way around heartbreak. You can only feel it. You're not overthinking because you're broken. You're overthinking because you never learn how to sit with your feelings without trying to fix them. So right now, just for a moment, stop trying to solve yourself. Stop diagnosing. Stop predicting. Stop analyzing the past like a crime scene. Stop thinking of your emotions as problems. Just breathe. You don't have to understand your pain right now. You just have to honor it. That ache in your chest, that lump in your throat, that heaviness in your stomach, that's your body asking for permission to release everything your mind has been holding hostage. Cry if you need to. Scream if you have to. Write, run, pray, dance, sit, whatever allows you to feel without censoring yourself. Let the emotion move through you like a storm that doesn't ask for permission. Because the more you resist feeling, the louder your thoughts will become. Overthinking is just emotional traffic. The congestion that builds up when your feelings have nowhere to go. But when you let yourself feel, truly feel, something magical happens. The noise begins to clear. The thoughts lose their grip. The chaos starts to quiet. And suddenly, there's space again. Space to breathe. Space to think clearly. Space to see yourself without distortion. Because every emotion you suppress becomes a ghost that haunts your thoughts. And every emotion you embrace becomes a lesson that frees you. This is emotional alchemy, the process of turning pain into wisdom, of realizing that every fear hides a need, every anxiety hides a wound, every overthought scenario hides a longing for safety. So instead of asking, how do I stop overthinking? Ask, what am I afraid to feel? Maybe it's fear of rejection. Maybe it's guilt from your past. Maybe it's grief you never processed. Maybe it's the sadness of being misunderstood. Maybe it's the loneliness of not being seen. Whatever it is, meet it without judgment. Let it sit with you. Name it. Hold it. And then release it. Because once you allow yourself to feel what's underneath the thoughts lose their purpose. They no longer need to protect you because you've already faced the truth. And this is the twist no one expects. Once you stop fighting your emotions, your thoughts stop fighting you. You start realizing that your mind and heart were never enemies. They were just trying to protect you in different ways. Your heart said, I can't handle more pain. And your mind said, then I'll think for us. But now you can tell both. It's okay. We're safe now. We can rest. And in that single moment, the war between your thoughts and your emotions ends. You finally begin to feel peace, not because your mind is empty, but because your heart is open. Stay with me, because in part 6, we reach the final chapter, where you'll learn how to live beyond overthinking, not by controlling your mind, but by reclaiming your peace and learning to trust life again. The voice feels complete now, peaceful, grounded, with a strength born from understanding. This is not the voice that started the journey. This is the voice that has walked through the storm and come out the other side. You've made it here, to the quiet after the noise, to the stillness after the storm of your own thoughts. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, your mind isn't racing to solve something. That silence you feel right now, that strange calm that almost feels unfamiliar, that's what healing sounds like. You didn't silence your thoughts. You softened them. You didn't destroy your mind. You befriended it. You didn't become perfect. You became peaceful. Walter Riso says, asterisk, emotional maturity begins the day you stop believing every thought you have. Asterisk, and now you understand why. Because your thoughts were never the enemy. Your attachment to them was. You used to believe that every thought needed a response. Every feeling needed an explanation. Every silence needed a meaning. Every situation needed control. But now you see that was never peace. That was fear wearing the mask of productivity. You thought that if you could just think enough, you'd be safe. But the safety you were looking for was never in the answers. It was in your ability to trust yourself even without them. You are learning to live without constant certainty. You are learning to find calm even when your mind is loud. You are learning that peace doesn't come when the noise stops. It comes when the noise no longer owns you, because this is what real freedom feels like. The ability to say, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's okay. I can't control everything, and that's okay. I might make mistakes, and that's okay. I might not have closure, and that's okay. I might not understand everything, and that's still okay. It's not resignation. It's wisdom. It's emotional maturity disguised as surrender. You no longer need to predict life. You trust that you can handle it. You no longer need to read people's minds. You trust that truth will reveal itself. You no longer need to replay the past. You trust that it taught you enough. That's how peace grows, not in certainty, but in trust. And maybe the most beautiful thing of all is this. You start realizing that your overthinking was never a flaw. It was your intelligence and sensitivity working overtime. It was your heart trying to keep you safe in the only way it knew how. It was your soul saying, I care too much to move on easily. You were never too much. You were just too unprotected. But now you're learning to protect yourself differently, with boundaries, not walls, with trust, not control, with awareness, not avoidance, with compassion, not judgment. This is your emotional graduation, the moment you stop living from your fear and start living from your truth. And your truth is simple but powerful. You can handle life as it comes. You don't need to predict it to survive it. You don't need to understand everything to find peace. You don't need to fix the past to deserve a future. You don't need to control every outcome to feel safe. You just need to be here, in this breath, in this body, in this moment. Breathe in. That's presence. Breathe out. That's release. That's all peace ever asks of you. And now, something even deeper happens. You begin to trust life again. You start realizing that uncertainty isn't punishment. It's possibility. That not knowing what comes next isn't a threat. It's an invitation to flow, to experience, to surrender, to create, to live. Because you were never meant to think your way through life. You were meant to feel your way through it. And when you finally trust that life can unfold without your constant interference, your mind exhales, your body softens, your soul expands, and you realize you were never broken, just overwhelmed. And now that you've learned how to be still with yourself, you no longer fear your own thoughts. You don't run from silence anymore. You welcome it. You don't need to overthink love. You feel it when it's real. You don't need to predict outcomes. You meet them when they arrive. You don't need to chase peace, because it's already here, in you. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a new way of living, one that doesn't depend on certainty, but thrives in awareness. So take one last deep breath. Let it fill your chest. Let it soften your mind. Let it remind you of this truth. You don't have to control everything to be okay. You don't have to understand everything to be at peace. You don't have to think your way to happiness. You can feel your way there instead. Your thoughts will still visit, but they will no longer run the house, because you, finally, have learned how to live in your mind without being lost in it. This is your peace. This is your calm. This is your quiet mind.